Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to part 2 of this detailing and ceramic coating prep tutorial. In this part, we'll be going over machine polishing, removing oils with IPA, as well as actually applying the ceramic coating itself. If you missed part 1 where we went over how to use a waterless car wash system, clay bar, mask off the area, and machine compounding, the link will be in the description below for that video. As always, if you enjoyed the content coming out, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you receive updates as they come out. As always, enjoy the video. Thanks for watching. Alright, next up is optimum hyper polish on the cutting pad. So go ahead and shake the polish. Then spin the pad and spray to prep it. It should only take 1 or 2 sprays. And the great thing about the optimum hyper set is that the compound and the polish work together. So you can go from compound straight to polish without having to wipe off the residue. So you can literally go from compound straight to polish and not have to use a cloth to wipe it off and waste a cloth. So we go ahead and press the pad to the panel and move the polisher as we turn it on and spread out the polish. We'll only be doing one pass with the polish, going nice and slow, allowing the pad and the machine to do the work for us. You may have to apply a slight bit of pressure with these thicker pads to ensure they don't fly off, but still almost no pressure. Normally with compounds and polishes, you have to make sure the residue is off of the panel before moving on to the next step, as the residue from the compound could interfere with the polish and cause it to be more aggressive, cause it to leave holograms or swirls, and it makes the whole polishing step take a bit longer if that happens. Alright, and once we finish polishing with the cutting pad, we're going to go ahead and blow off the pad, and then move over to our finishing pad for the final bit of polishing. Alright, so lastly, moving on to the DMF finishing pad. Press it on nice and tight, because this pad is most likely to fly off, or at least it seems to be for me. Go ahead and give it 1 to 2 sprays, and that will actually be more than enough to do this whole panel for us, as this panel still has plenty of polish on it from the cutting pad. We'll need to apply a bit more pressure with this pad, only because of its tendency to fly off. It shouldn't compress the pad, but have firm pressure against the surface. And we'll finish it off with blowing off the pad, and then we'll move on to removing the tape, doing an IPA wipe down to remove the oils, and then applying the ceramic coating to finish everything off. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and remove our tape lines. Be careful on this one down here, you don't want to get any of the contaminants or dirt from the wheel well on the surface. You may notice a bit of dust everywhere from the compounding step. That's fine, it can be either blown off with an air compressor or just wiped off with a pad. You may notice a bit of a tape line, so we just have to be a little gentle with that when we're wiping everything off. We'll want to use a nice and clean cloth and start with just a gentle pass, and we're just going to be removing the excess polish. Then we'll just move on to a brand new clean cloth. It's never been used. And we're just going to gently buff off the remaining polish. We're not using any pressure here, just the cloth itself and just getting the excess and remaining polish off of it. You may notice here there seems to be some marks. That's from the tape line where excess polish was stored in it, so we just have to carefully remove that, and then remove the remaining polish and buff it out. Then I like to switch over to yet another new side and give it one final wipe down, just to make sure that there's no remaining residues, no remaining polishes, nothing on the surface. And now that we've got it all clean, we're going to move on to the next step of making sure there are no oils left on the surface using isopropyl or rubbing alcohol. And I'll go ahead and wipe down the surrounding areas off camera to ensure that the dust doesn't get in the ceramic coating. Alright, so now that we've got the polish off, I went ahead and wiped off the excess dust from the compounding off the surrounding areas. We're going to go ahead and take our IPA and water mix. This is 91% IPA mixed with about half IPA and half water. The dilution ratio isn't super important, it just may take more than one pass if you don't have enough alcohol in the mixture. I like to spray the surface from about 2 feet away, so it's not hitting the surface too hard and concentrating the alcohol in one spot. For example, if you had any waxes on the surface prior to this, the alcohol can definitely take it off. Then we take our clean cloth and begin wiping it off. The main key thing is to make sure we're using as little force as possible, as anytime you touch the paint, you're technically going to scratch it. You may not notice it as it can be extremely minor, practically invisible to our eyes, so we're using just as light of pressure as possible. And now that we've got the alcohol off, we're going to switch to a dry side and just finish buffing the surface. It's key to make sure that the surface is completely dry before moving forward to the next step, which will be ceramic coating, which will be a bit of a repeat from my last video for the steps for it, but this is a start to finish video showing the whole process. Alright, so it's time to move on to the next step, which is our ceramic coating. We're going to actually use the applicator pad and unfortunately one cloth that came with this bottle, as these cloths are not reusable. I do wish they gave you more. You can use the yellow pads like I did in my last video. Go ahead and wrap the cloth around the applicator sponge, trying to get it nice and tight. One thing you do that I don't show in this video is take your detailing light and go over the surface to double check that there are no scratches or swirls that you missed, or that you need further correcting, as this is a permanent coating. I don't show that in this video because it's pretty much impossible to see that with this paint color. So we'll take our coating and make an X across the pad. And this amount here is actually more than enough to do this whole panel. It doesn't take much. So what we're going to do is start at this corner and go across, and then go from the tip of the corner down to the bottom, then outline the fender. It's a little odd when you're doing an odd shape like a fender, and instead of a square surface like a hood. Once we have our X, we'll do our outline, being careful not to get on the other panels that we don't want to be on, because this is a permanent coating that will stay on those other panels as well. Now that we've got the outline done, it's the same process as before. Go vertical, making sure to get the whole area, then move on to your horizontals, being careful to stay on your panel. This crosshatch pattern ensures there should not be any drying spots. Then we'll move up to the top section here. We'll start off going vertical, staying nice and slow. And I'll stop at about halfway and then start going horizontal, as we'll make sure that it gets fully covered when we go to the next side. Remember that we don't want to use circular motions. Doing so can sometimes lift off the ceramic coating and leave a dry or low spot where we do that. You get about 5 to 10 minutes before it hardens, so take your time. You don't need to rush with this, because you want to make sure that you get a nice even coating when you do this. We're just going to do one more vertical. Just go all the way down the panel. I always recommend at least 3 passes, just to make sure you get everything if you can. When we get up here to this little curve at the top, I'm actually pressing in a little bit on the pad just to make sure it conforms to the angle and it gets the whole area. Now, myself personally, I don't do the inside of the fenders. Some people can. And you can, so long as you've prepared the whole area and there's no dirt or anything to get picked up in the coating. I'll start off in this area going horizontally since it's such a long section. And then I'll move on to my vertical passes, just being careful around the headlight currently. It's not going to hurt anything if you get it on there. I just haven't done any preparation for the headlight, so I don't really want any polish or coating on there. Just making sure I get all the areas here with the vertical passes. I do recommend doing at least 2 coats with the ceramic coating just to ensure you have full coverage with the product. It never hurts. You can layer on 2, 3, 4, 5 times, but it just kind of starts to waste product after 2. I'm not sure how well you guys are able to see it on camera, but there's a nice and oily looking sheen that shows me that I've got the whole area. I can see it pretty well with my own eyes, though I'm not sure if you guys can see it. Alright, so we're done there. We'll come back in a couple of minutes to remove the excess and buff everything off. We'll be back in a few minutes. So it's been about 3 minutes, not very long, but it is very hot in my garage. So we're going to go ahead and get the excess off. Once again, not using any pressure, just the weight of the cloth. We're going to go ahead and wipe off the excess. You may notice that my cloth is dragging a little bit. That's because it's so hot in my garage, probably 105 or 110 degrees Fahrenheit or so. The coating is actually already starting to flash off, so I waited a hair too long, but that's fine. So we've got the excess off. If you look right through here, you can still see the shimmer, which means there's still excess coating to be removed. So we'll flip to a nice clean side, or folding my cloth again in my case, and work to get that buffed into the panel. What you're looking for, and I'm not sure if it's even visible on camera, are oily or rainbow looking spots. We're not looking to get the coating off, we're just trying to ensure everything is blended in, level, and even. And if you do mess it up, no worries, you just wait a couple of hours, or in my case probably just half an hour since it's so hot, and you can take your cutting compound or even polishing compound and you can get this right off, as it does take about a day to fully cure. actually so hot in the garage that during this part, my car actually kicked itself on to begin cooling itself off. That's how you know it's a little too hot. I should probably add some circulation in the garage to make it a little bit nicer. Alright, and that looks good to me. So we're going to leave it, and we'll come back in about half an hour, since that's all I should need. Normally you'd wait 1, maybe 2 hours, and then we'll apply our second coating, using the same applicator sponge and cloth. We just have to move it over to a new section of cloth, as the part we used would be too hard to use. Alright, so we waited about 45 minutes, and back out here we're going to switch to a new section of cloth, just a clean, dry section. We'll put our X back on the cloth and begin going over the panel again. Same procedure as before, just create our X, outline the panel, do our verticals to our horizontals, aiming for about 3 passes. I'm going to speed this section up since it's the same thing, we don't need to watch it for 7 minutes. But a couple of keynotes to take away. You are able to get this onto plastics or any of the surrounding trim. It is fine, it won't damage it. But if you get on like the matte black plastic, it may have a little bit of a sheen to it. And also with the turn signal of the chrome that's there, I do go over that as well, just add a little layer of protection. It doesn't hurt anything to go over that, it's perfectly safe. And also due to the temperature in my garage, I didn't wait any time after I finished applying the coating to remove it, as I noticed with the 3 minutes I waited, it had already begun to flash off. So I just went ahead, once I was done, began to remove the excess. You'll also see me pay attention to the other panels where I accidentally got a little bit of coating on those panels, so I just went ahead and made sure to remove that. And so that wraps up the detailing and ceramic coating prep tutorial. If you guys have any suggestions, make sure to put them in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for further content as it comes out. Thanks so much for watching. Take care.